Welcome to our continuing series of Virtual Voices, focusing on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and hosted by World Information Transfer. Today we have three students from Ukraine. Anna Pershana, who is a design student at Kremerchuk Mikhailo Ostrodratsky National University. She was originally from Kremerchuk. She is an artist and graphic designer involved in social, environmental, and community volunteering projects using visual communication. Polina Techluk, born in Khmelnytsky region, studies at the Faculty of Journalism of the Ivan Franko National University. She is a member of the faculty's Trade Union Bureau and participates in volunteer work. And Darina Sheremeta, who is also born in Khmelnytsky. She is the student of Ivan Franko National University of Lviv, studies journalism, takes part at youth exchanges and international projects. Welcome to all three of you. And Anna, we are waiting for your presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna. I'm a student from Kremenchuk. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers for opportunity to speak today and all of you for being here. Today, the topic of the report is why peace cannot be based on concessions and why it's important to for the world not just to stop the war, but do it correctly. The history provides many examples of attempts to appease an aggressor that ended in a new conflict. Today, when it's come to negotiation with Russia, it's important to understand that peace cannot be built on concessions. The main question, will a compromise stop the aggressor, or will it only give him more time to prepare for a new war? We are a generation living in a reality where war has become part of our daily news, but wars don't disappear by themselves, and they certainly don't end because of compromises with the aggressor. History has already shown that concessions to the aggressor do not bring peace, but only postpone the next conflict. The bloody, fruitless meat grinder the three-day invasion of Ukraine turned into for the Russians does not mean that Russia has become weak enough and no longer threatens NATO countries. This is what Business Insider writes about. The aggressor perceives compromise as weakness, which only increases his appetites. The principle appetites grow with eating confirms that concession only encourage further expansions. This pattern is clearly illustrated by the numerous historical examples where concessions to aggressor lead to even great conflict. The petition of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth at the end of the 18th century clearly shows how concessions to aggressor lead to the loss of statehood due to international weakness and external appeasement. The Commonwealth was divided between Russia, Prussia, and Austria in 1772, 1793, and 1795. Today, Russia's war against Ukraine proves any territorial concession only fuels further aggression, undermines sovereignty, and threatens statehood. History shows resistance and territorial integrity are essential to independence. The Polish-Soviet War, 1919 to 1921, demonstrate that national unity and international support can stop aggression. Despite limited resources, Poland defeated the Bolsheviks with effective leadership and aid from the Entente. Likewise, Ukraine needs strong international backing, long-range missiles to target Russian military infrastructure, and modern air defense to protect civilians. As in Poland's case, victory over Russia requires unity and firm allied support. Munich agreements. The West handed Hitler the ceded land, hoping to avoid war. A year later, World War II began. Appeasement failed. First and Second Chechen Wars. Russia used peace deals to regroup and then launched a second war, taking full control of Chechnya. Silence from the world signaled impunity. Russo-Georgia War, 2008. Russia seized territories. The world responded with empty concern. No consequences. Ukraine was next. Minsk Agreements 2014 to 2015. Ukraine compromised, but this did not prevent the full-scale invasion in 2022. Therefore, the only effective way is to demonstrate strength and firmness. If we learn from mistakes, then this mistake has already been repeated so many times that the conclusions are self-evident. Each step back only brought Russia closer to a new blow. If we want real peace, we need to change tactics. Soft sanctions failed to deliver the desired results. Partial economic restrictions, diplomatic concession, and ineffective measures only strengthened the aggressor position. For effective deterrence, thought and comprehensive sanctions are needed. Gabrielius Landsbergis, Lithuania's former foreign minister, told Business Insider that Russia has resumed tank production and established drone manufacturing. He also stressed that Russia army now has extensive experience in conducting a modern full-scale war, while Western armies are focused on fighting terrorism rather than preparing for a major war with an almost equal opponent. The publication emphasized that Moscow has repeatedly threatened NATO, and now Russia is on war footing, rebuilding and reconstructing its army, producing more weapons, and even joining forces with countries hostile to the West. Keir Giles, senior consultant for the Russia and Eurasia program at the British think tank Chatham House, emphasized that Russia has demonstrated its ability to convince itself of its invincibility and then attack its neighbors. That is why it can attack NATO without really realizing how devastating the consequences of such an attack will be for it. He also noted that significant losses of troops are not reason for Russia to abandon aggression, because the Kremlin considers people to be cheap asset. Honestly, I think that Russia is not just exhausted. I think that it's clearly on the war path, Landsberg said. In addition, General Christopher Cavoli, commander of the US European Command, recalled that in the war against Ukraine, Russia lost a lot of ground equipment and infantry, while the aviation and navy generally suffered minimal damage. And this is despite the fact that Russian military economic is only increasing production. No major war ended with just an armistice. World War II did not end with a compromise with Hitler, but only with his unconditional surrender. Punishing the aggressor and fair security guaranteed are key to the lasting peace. Establishing a just and lasting peace requires three key elements: international law, reliable security guarantees, and the global support. One of the main conditions for a stable peace is the establishment of the principle of the rule of law over military force. Aggressor must be held accountable for their actions, otherwise impunity stimulates further wars. An example of effective justice was the numbering trials after World War II, which set a precedent for punishing war criminals. Similarly, the modern world community must ensure the responsibility of the aggressor in order to prevent the repetition of such crimes in the future. This requires holding aggressor accountable through international justice, strict sanctions, and empowered global situations. Without just punishment, it is impossible to guarantee peace, since any uncorrected injustice can cause new conflict. History shows that neutral status or independent resistance is not enough to preserve peace. States without strong alliance become easy targets. The most effective way to prevent war is through military-political alliance, like NATO, which strengthens defense and ensures support during aggression. The most effective security system is a system of deterring the aggressor before the war begins, rather than seeking compromises after it begins. Another important factor in achieving a just peace is support from the international community. States that fight alone have less chance of success. In the modern world, not only military assistance is important, but also political, economic, and humanitarian support. Genuine peace cannot be achieved through concession to the aggressor or temporary agreements that fail to guarantee future security. It must be based on the rule of law, real international guarantees, and the support of the world community. Only under these conditions we can talk about a sustainable and just peace that will not repeat the mistake of the past and will not allow the aggressor to continue their crimes with impunity. Compromising with an aggressor leads to a new war. Only strength, unity, and determination can guarantee peace and security. Thank you for your attention. This is all from me.
Thank you very, very much, Polina. And we will now move on to Darina Sheremata.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Our today's topic is very important for the ongoing war in Ukraine, since peaceful negotiations are actively discussed in Ukraine as well as worldwide. And in my presentation, I will focus on human rights and why a lot of people are skeptical about so-called peaceful negotiations. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So as you could notice, recently politicians have been talking a lot about peaceful deal and peaceful regulations of the war in Ukraine. And usually it sounds like this: Ukraine should agree on whatever Russia says, and then war will end. But will it really work like that? Let's dive into history. As we know, the full-scale invasion started in 2022, but the actual war started much earlier, in 2014. It was the same cruel and unfair war, one of numerous that Russia has launched against Ukraine during last 1,000 years. The world tried to regulate the war in its beginning using the power of law and tolerated so-called Minsk agreements, yeah, which were signed in 2014 in Belarus. According to these agreements, shooting should have been stopped, but Russia impudently violated them by sending more of its armed forces on Ukrainian territory and provoking more gory battles during the following years. With the beginning of full-scale invasion in 2022, the quantity of Russian war crimes has risen significantly. Media reports about more than 19,000 children from Ukraine who have been deported to Russia, and only 1,236 of them have been returned to Ukraine. And as we all know, the actual number of children remaining in Russia is likely significantly higher. Hundreds of children were taken from Ukraine and illegally placed for adoption in Russia or placed in Russian families. And in least in one case, Russia's government reissued the child's birth certificate, changing the child's name and place of birth, which is deeply inhuman because it makes it impossible for the family of this child to find him or her and return back home. In areas of Ukraine that Russia occupies, Russian forces have been committing war crimes and crimes against humanity. These include torture and killing of civilians, sexual violence, enforced disappearances, forcible transfers, and unlawful deportations of Ukrainians. Thousands of cases are documented, and how many of them had happened and had no witnesses, and how many of them remained unnoticed. We don't know. Geneva Conventions say that civilian objects shall not be the objects of attack or reprisals. Attacks shall be limited strictly to military objectives, but on the April 4th, which was few days ago, Russians struck a missile on children's playground in Kryvyi Rih, killing at least 18 people, including 9 children, and injuring at 50 people. Think about it: striking missiles on a playground, purposely killing someone's daughter and son, at the same time being tolerated in the whole world and remaining unpunished. Nuremberg principles say that wanton destruction of cities, towns, or villages, or devastation are not justified by military necessities is a war crime. But look how Bakhmut and Mariinka, just ordinary cities that have been affected by Russian aggression, look like. Someone's favorite cafe, a tree where someone was playing in the childhood, someone's favorite park, someone's home now looks like a hazard because of all the crimes that Russia has committed. Geneva Conventions say that the taking of hostages is prohibited, but hundreds of dead civilians are found with their hands tied and traces of torture and inhuman treatment committed by Russians. Kharkiv, Dnipro, Odessa, Kryvyi Rih, Zaporizhia, Sumy, and other cities are brutally bombed every day. Hospitals, playgrounds, shopping malls, residential areas. Russians strike missiles on civil objects and kill regular people and continue to proclaim that they want peace. Media reports that Russian military shares numerous videos of the cruel execution of Ukrainian soldiers. They torture them, behead them, brutally shoot them to death, and picture their war crimes on the camera. They film and post it on the internet because they see how ignorant most of the world is about everything that is going on in Ukraine. And they assure that no one will be punished. But we should change that. Ones who are responsible for all horrors that are committed in Ukraine must be punished. So now, considering all the facts that were presented, let's ask ourselves one question. Are peaceful negotiations really possible? Or even, will it really stop the war? Will thousands of children come back to their families? Will those who are responsible for the deaths of civil people and war crimes be punished? Will we not just repeat the story of pushing Ukraine towards unfair deal on Russian conditions? Ukraine should deliver our conditions for negotiations. We are not the ones to make concessions. We're not the ones to give away what was stolen from us. We're not the ones to close eyes on thousands and thousands of brutal murders. We want people to come back to their home towns. We want the world to acknowledge all crimes Russia committed on our land. And we want those responsible those who are responsible for what they have done to be punished. And we want a fair ending of the war. Yeah. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very, very much, Darina. And now we will move to Polina Texu.
Good afternoon to everyone. Today we're talking about an important topic, is peace. Peace is something we have been striving for a very long time. The Ukrainians seek not just a formal peace, but a just and lasting peace that guarantees security, territorial integrity, and the ability to freely choose our future. We want a peace that will allow us to live and develop as an independent European nation. However, is true peace possible with our neighboring country, and what would it look like? This is a complex question with no simple answer. Today, I would like to take a closer look at the economic situation, which depends on the event on the front line. The issue of peace negotiations remains a key challenge for Ukraine, as their results will determine not only the country's political future, but also the directions of economic recovery. It is important to understand that the economic component is a critical element in any potential peace agreement. The success of negotiations will determine not only the cessations of military actions, but also mechanisms for compensation for damages, restoration of destroyed infrastructure, and possibilities for post-war reconstruction. Therefore, we must be extremely vigilant about the conditions of negotiations with Russia, as the aggressor country has already caused catastrophic damage to Ukraine. Before the full-scale war, Ukrainian nuclear thermal, hydroelectric power plants, and renewable sources produced 44.1 GV of electricity. Ukraine lost 80 GV due to the occupation of territories by the Russian army. Since October 2022, the Russian army has carried out more than 1,000 attacks on Ukrainian energy infrastructure. While in the first year of the full-scale war, the enemy mainly focused on shelling facilities that distribute energy. In 2024, power stations that directly produce energy came under attack. On March 28, Russia launched a combined strike on gas infrastructure and damaged gas production. This is the 18th combined attack on the group's infrastructure since the beginning of the full-scale war and the 8th since the beginning of this year. This attack was carried out right after an agreement was reached with Russia on March 25 for a moratorium on attacks on energy facilities. Our economy has also suffered greatly due to the occupation. Among the industrial sectors, metallurgy suffered the most. Three large metallurgical enterprises, Azovstal, MMK Ilyich, and Avdiivka Coking plant and chemical plant, suffered significant destruction and fell under temporary occupation. Thus, at the end of 2021, the volume of metallurgical production was 748 billion UR. In 2022, it collapsed to 359 billion UR, and in 2023, it grew slightly to 367 billion UR. Because of the war, Ukraine has become the most mined country in the world. This problem directly affects the operation of the agro-industrial complex, whose main production resource is a fertile soil. According to World Bank estimates, direct and indirect losses for agriculture over years of war amount to more than $80 billion. This includes infrastructure production, production capacity, and grain storage assets. With the onset of hostilities, Ukraine airspace was immediately closed and air travel was halted. In the first weeks of the invasion, Russian troops carried out massive shelling of aviation infrastructure, primarily airfields, not only military but also civilian dual purpose. Later, railway infrastructure facilities became the target of serious attacks. According to KCA data, the total amount of direct damage to transport infrastructure in Ukraine is $36.8 billion. The infrastructure of the Black Sea ports is our main route through which we export 90% of agriculture products. A lot depends on its functioning, and Russia knows this, and they know this that it's a very sensitive point, take advantage of it, and therefore, along with strikes on energy, they also hit port infrastructure. These attacks not only cause direct damage, but also increase the cost of insurances services for maritime transportation, further complicating exports. Since the start of the full-scale war, the Ukrainian hryvnia has significantly devalued. This is unsurprising given the economic challenges Ukraine has faces. Currency depreciation always impacts prices and the standard of living. Additionally, the cost of production within the country has risen sharply. The price of electricity in dollars has increased by 94%. The electricity transmission tariff in 2025 is projected to be 30% higher than in 2024. Furthermore, railway transportation costs for businesses have also increased. Since the beginning of the military aggression in 2014, the total damage caused to Ukraine may reach $1 trillion. After 3 years of full-scale war, the amount of losses caused by Russia is already estimated at $589 billion. And due to daily Russian strikes on Ukrainian territory, the real amount of damage continues to grow daily. We need a significant portion of funds for our military also. Security has become the absolute priority of the state. In just 2 months of 2025, 336.6 billion yuan was spent on defense. The funds are directed to financial support for the military, purchase of equipment, ammunition, and protective gear. After a significant drop of 29% in 2022, Ukraine's economy is gradually recovering. In 2024, GDP growth of 3.8% was recovered, but really GDP remains 17.4% lower than the pre-war level. Inflation is beginning to slow down, but prices for services and goods are still high. Public debt exceeds 90% of GDP, and financial stability largely depends on international aid. Exports, especially grain, depend on the operation of Black Sea ports, and economic growth is hampered by war, the energy crisis, and lack of investment. Further stability will depend on the security situation, reforms, and international support. And after thousands of broken promises, cynical shelling during declared humanitarian corridors, constant attacks on civilian infrastructure, and Russia's categorical refusal to acknowledge its responsibility for aggression against Ukraine, we have no reason to trust the Russian side in the negotiation process. The history of interactions with Russia clearly shows that its diplomatic assurances are often merely a tool for diverting international attention, while its true intentions remain unchanged to inflict maximum damage on Ukrainian statehood and economy. Therefore, we, the youth, see just peace as one based on complete restoration of Ukraine's territorial integrity and fair compensation for all damages caused. For the new generation of Ukrainians, peace cannot be achieved at the cost of territorial concessions or refusal of the aggressor's responsibility. It must include mechanisms for bringing war criminals to justice, reporting deported citizens, and creating reliable international security guarantees that will make it impossible for aggression to be repeated in the future. That's all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Polina. And now we have a lot of questions, and I'll ask the question, and then each one of you, please give me your impressions and your opinion. Question number one. Why was Russia able to start a full-scale war in 2022, although it signed the Minsk agreement and agreed with President Trump to stop the aggression? Let's start with Anna Hrechana and then move on to Darina Sheremeta and then to Polina Techuk. Anna?
That's a really good question. I believe the agreements were never meant to be a long-term solution for the aggressor. Instead, they were simply a strategic move to buy time to regroup and weaken Ukraine from within. And the ultimate goal was not peace, but to create a condition that would make it easier for aggressor to continue the expansion without facing immediate consequences. Ukraine was left vulnerable without concrete security guarantees, and it's make Russia easier to attack Ukraine. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And your opinion, Darina?
Yeah, I agree with Anna that Minsk agreements were just a trick to spend some time preparing for a full-scale invasion. Also, I think maybe Russia and Russians, they have such a kind of mentality that they will not be punished. Maybe they are sure that they will not be punished. That's why they violate all agreements. they sign themselves. Yeah, that's my point of view.
Thank you, Darina. And Paulina?
I guess that they think that they have more people for soldier, you know, it's all about history. And yeah, I just guess that they have, they had the possibility, I don't know, they have more military equipments and yeah, I agree with my colleagues.
All right, thank you. The next question is, what are the most important lessons the world community should learn from the history of the World War II with Russia? And we'll start again with Anna.
Okay. I think the most important lesson the world community should learn from World War II is that the aggressor must be stopped. It must be stopped immediately. Not hope to be satisfied with a small concession. The policy of appeasement does not work at all. That's the most important lesson for the world after the World War II. That's my answer.
All right, and Paulina?
At first, I think that words have to learn that we can't to trust to everyone, you know, and I think that nothing is worse to start the aggression about some country.
Could sanctions have stopped Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine? And we'll start again with Anna.
Okay, so yeah, I think of course if the sanction were strict and really powerful, I think it's really should stop the Russia, because now in the world I feel like the sanctions are not enough for this country, for this aggressor, and now Russia feels powerful, even if it has some kind of sanction, but it does not help to stop it. But if originally Russia was given with strict sanction, I think it would, in some ways, maybe, but it will stop Russia. It will stop the aggression.
All right, thank you, Anna. Move on to Darina. What is your opinion?
I think that sanctions are not enough, because we have the example of Iran, also the country which has many sanctions put on it because of ongoing conflict, but it didn't these the sanctions didn't change much, and Iran is still producing weapons and even selling them to Russia. So I think sanctions are not enough, and war demands a complex solution. Sanctions could be one of the solution, and it can be a very good tool for some economical pressure, maybe political pressure, but sanctions alone are not enough.
Thank you. And let's move on to Paulina.
I think that I agree with my colleague Darina that sanctions it's not enough because Russia is because Russia thinks that they have a lot of power. So I think that there could be some ways to stop the war, but sanctions is not enough.
This is the next question. Why do some countries try to remain neutral in conflict similar to the war in Ukraine? And let's start again with Anna.
First of all, I think this is because they're scared, basically, because Russia, it's a great country. It's most big country in the world, and they certainly have ways to make these countries that are afraid to show some response to war, make them fear them. So I think basically these countries are afraid of the consequences that will be if they begin to support Ukraine more than they do it now, and this is actually it's really really bad for our situation, and I hope that this country will give more support to us and understand that together we can beat anything.
Thank you, Anna. Let's move to Polina. Oh, excuse me, to Darina is the next one.
Yeah. That's unfortunate that many countries remain neutral in this war. But let's look at Austria, for example. In their constitution, they have it in their constitution that they remain neutral in every conflict, any conflict. So sometimes it depends on like inside laws of the country. But yeah, I agree with my colleague that we can't deny that Russia is very powerful and it has a big impact on world economic, politics, and so on and so forth. That's why many countries are simply afraid to speak out or to give weapons or to give some help. So because they are afraid of consequences.
Thank you, Darina. It's a good point. I will continue with another question, but first let's hear from Polina.
I guess that other countries are just scared because they can see what Russia has, what Russia can do. And I guess that some countries support Russia because they trade with it, needs its energy or something like that. And maybe it just they want to stay neutral or defend their own interests.
Thank you. The next question is interesting, but from another perspective. But why do Hitler's policy in the 1930s and Russia's current policy are similar? And let's start with Anna.
If you may, maybe somebody have to say, and I something to say, and I think about this question for a little bit.
Okay. All right, we'll move. We'll go back to you. Darina, do you have a opinion on this?
Yes, I'm not sure that their like the ideologies, yeah, the ideologies are very similar, to be fair. But yeah, they have like the both the Russian politics now and Hitler's ideology back then have one in similar. They're destroying one particular nation, one particular group of people, and that's horrible. But one thing, like we can look on the bright side of life, and the Nazi regime was like it ended. So we hope that Russia and all those who are responsible for crimes, for murders, will be punished as well, and it will end soon.
Thank you, Darina. And Polina, you have any thoughts on this?
Honestly, no, I just agree with Darina, so I don't know what to say more.
Okay. And Anna, well, I'm coming back to you. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, basically, Darina had a good point, and I clearly agree with her. So I think Darina speak for us all.
All right. Next question. Russia has been trying to destroy Ukraine since the 16th century. Do you have any thoughts on why Russia is so intent on destroying Ukraine? First, by taking its name, because Kiev Rus was Kiev Rus, and then they decided to take Russia, and then all the other manipulations that they have done. Do you have any opinion on why are they so intent on destroying Ukraine? And again, Anna.
Um, in my opinion, first that came to my mind, it's Russia's envy. They envy that we have such a strong, such powerful history. We have such powerful people in Ukraine since the beginning of the time, and they don't. So they envy of how if I can say that we are better than they, so they want this. They envy of how we live better than they if speak of today, because a lot of people on internet, because we have social medias, and we see real Russians that and they openly say how we Ukrainians live better. So they want it for them. So they begin this war just because they envy and they won't live as good as we are now.
Interesting point. Thank you. And Darina, what is your opinion?
I'm asking myself the same question very frequently because I really do not know why would you want to kill so many people? Why would you want to strike the missiles on the playground? And it's not only Ukraine; it's Moldova, Georgia, Chechnya. We have many examples of war in 21st century, which were started by Russia. And I think it's just a mentality because if they can't like outgrow it and move on and like develop, um, but they are still doing the same many years. It's just their mentality.
And Polina.
I think that Russia has attacked Ukraine for centuries to control probably our lands, resources, people. Maybe just Russia wants to stop Ukraine from being independent and close to Europe. I'm sorry. Um, Maybe Ukraine's freedom threatens Russia's power.
Very good point. Let's move on. Continuing on this, do you feel that Russia will be able to achieve its centuries-old goal? And going back to Anna.
I hope that they never achieve this. And to be honest, basically on what I feel like they never can achieve this. Only if Ukrainians will stay strong, if Ukrainians will achieve a support from and other countries, if they will have strong allies, And if
Yes.
so don't know how to say it. So basically, what my point is that no, I don't think that they basically ever been able to achieve their goal to make Ukraine disappear like they wanted. So that we can't be independent like countries. So I hope they never achieve this. That's my answer.
Do you think that there is any way of achieving peace in Russia unless its population decides not to be afraid of standing against their leaders? And let's start with Anna again.
Okay, so in my opinion, in history, there was so many times, so many people of Russia could have stopped this so many times, and they didn't do it. So I think in the future, it is not very reliable on them to stop this. So I can say that I don't see such result of the people. So no, I don't think that.
You don't think so? Well, it's possible because they are afraid that they're going to end up in a gulag someplace.
Yes.
But let's move on to Darina. What do you think? You think there is any hope for the Russian population to be able to withstand the tyranny of its policies?
I think I'm a bit like I'm very aware of Russian mentality, and I don't think that it's possible, unfortunately. And the war needs to be resolved in other ways. Yeah, I don't think it's possible because it's a cultural, many cultural facts, history, their mentality, everything like screaming that it's not possible now.
Okay, and Paulina,
Mhm.
what's your opinion?
I don't think it's possible because I guess Russians, they're so scared of their government. They don't have that freedom Ukrainians have, so that free thoughts and something like that. So I don't think it's possible.
Okay. Let's move on. There's another question here, and that is, are there any factors that can force Russia to stop its aggression?
Well,
Anna?
honestly, I don't think so. Like you said, Russians tried to invade Ukraine like for centuries and centuries and years and years and years, and I honestly don't think that something will change in their minds, and we must prepare to continue this fight, not just war, but fight with Russians long ahead. And I think this fight will continue, unfortunately.
Okay, let's move on to Darina.
For now, I don't see a clear answer for this question, to be fair. And even when this war ends, eventually, we should stick to the principle sivi pacem para bellum. I hope I pronounce it correctly. I don't know Latin, but if you want peace, you should be prepared to war, and we should always bear in mind that Russia has some interest in our country, in our resources, and yeah, for now, I don't have a clear answer for this question.
Polina?
I think that if they have already done so many damages to Ukraine, I don't think that anything will change or that they will change.
Okay. Next question, I think, will requires some of you to think more on the international level, and that is, why do aggressive regimes not afraid of international agreements and sanctions? And is there anything that United Nations can do to influence in order to achieve its 17 Sustainable Development Goals? So thank you, Anna, and thank you, Darina, and thank you, Polina, for wonderful presentations. And I wish you the best in your future, and hopefully Ukraine will be free to continue having young ladies like yourself leading the future generations of Ukrainians. Take good care of yourself, and bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you so much for your attention. Have a good day.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Take care.